It's 1 a.m. and I'm pretty sleepy, which is kind of nice because I've been struggling with that since, D-Day. But I found another potential piece to the puzzle, and this is going to sound really controversial. But hey, maybe controversial will spark a discussion. And I'm going to use not formal psychology terms, but what I'm about to say is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional if you have a mental health concern, and do not rely on the advice in this video. It's merely a recounting from my own experiences. With that little disclaimer, I wanted to talk a little bit about world events and decisions that the United States has made, and responsibility and burden. So, I have a lot of experience with therapy and psychology because I've done a lot of work to make progress, to understand my personal traumas better and how they've impacted me and my life. And one thing that both therapists and my own mom pointed out is that I had a pattern of self-punishment. And I at first denied that was something happening, but then after a while of looking at it and trying to, really break my old patterns the best I could, I realized that, they were both right. Obviously, because I think the simplest way I can explain it is sometimes when horrible things happen to us, it's such a violation of boundary and such a shock on us and our psyche and our nervous system that we feel like we were complicit in it. And moral injury also is another thing. You go against your values, making decisions in a dire situation that go against your values, and horrible outcomes result that can hurt many, yourself, others. And it does leave a very serious mark on your psyche that says, well, you have to chronically punish yourself. Do the same horrible things to yourself over and over and over and over again, until you either realize that you need to stop it, set a new pattern, or you self-destruct. My hope is that the former happens for everyone. Well, I had the question in my mind, how does that work on a mass scale? And, and then I thought about burden of responsibility and where does it lie? Burden of responsibility, what are you doing about this awful thing that happened to you or that resulted in an awful outcome that you may have even been complicit in? And, an important thing that I think many people need to understand is that when you have a burden of responsibility, when you understand what your responsibilities are in a situation that requires it, you are also assuming the full power to fix it, the full power to respond to it the best way. And if you don't and you keep denying against it, it bears on your psyche, and then self-punishment comes, and some people call it karma. And in some ways, what I understand about karma, at least from the Hindu tradition, is that it's experience, outcome, cause, effect. Everything has karma, everything. The Western interpretation of it is, I wouldn't say off base, it's just different. But it's so important to understand assuming responsibility for what you really do need to assume responsibility for, and then taking on the power that comes with that responsibility. And the reason I talk about mass psychology and all the questions about why are Americans voting against their self-interest, why are people seemingly doing horrible things that end up hurting themselves and everyone else, I have the possible perspective that we are punishing ourselves. The burden and the wound left behind from, people in more targeted communities being oppressed, and then the oppressor, it leaves damage on the oppressor too. And that collective psychology of the unresolved, unaddressed wound that we refuse to really look at, has come to a point and left us even more isolated from the world than we were ever before. We have gotten wonderful support from our country, our neighbors, our neighboring countries in recent weeks, but it seems like we've become increasingly more isolated because of the horrible decisions we've made that have impacted other people's lives, especially, and from my own experience in the last couple of decades, a large part of my life. We've done a lot of horrible things and refused to really acknowledge them and the way they've impacted people, especially with a certain conflict in the Middle East that's ruined so many lives, taken so many. We have to not only stop punishing ourselves, but find a way to stop the cycle. Because if we don't address it properly and heal and reconcile from where we are, we will continue to receive this kind of pattern of self-punishment, abuse, taking on complicit positions and horrible decision-making and positions from the top level to the personal level. It's just a unique perspective of my own. Stop punishing yourselves and stop ignoring your issues. That's all I have to say for tonight. Much love.